Hi there, this is Catherine. Thank you so much for turning in to another episode of the Digital Marketing Victories podcast. Before we get into this month's episode, I just want to share with you the ways that you can support the podcast if you're finding the episodes helpful. You can send me a donation at buymeacoffee.com/DMV podcast. Any and all level of donation would be very much appreciated. Help me offset the cost of producing the podcast. I'd also encourage you to subscribe to our newsletter so that you don't miss a future episode or any other news about the podcast. And to do that, you go to wostrategies.com/newsletter. Okay, on with our episode. Welcome to the Digital Marketing Victories podcast, a monthly show where we celebrate and learn from the change makers in digital marketing. I'm personally obsessed with how digital marketers sell through and get their ideas executed. I'm your host, Catherine Watsier-Ong. I'm the owner of WO Strategies, LLC. We focus on organic discovery for our enterprise clients with a training-centered approach. Today, we're joined by Michelle Keller. Michelle creates content that promotes trust, protects her clients' agency and dignity, and is welcoming to all through inclusivity and accessibility and hopes for the future. She specializes in designing clear, compassionate, and trauma-informed content for difficult and sensitive situations. She's led content development from initial concept through delivery and has experiences with UX and WordPress development. She's also created systems and processes for auditing, managing, producing, and publishing digital content. And she says she excels at bringing order and structure to chaos. So this episode is going to be perfect for you if you're curious about what compassionate design is and how you can integrate it into your digital marketing strategy, how compassionate design and inclusive ADA type efforts overlap, how you convince your boss to take a compassionate design approach, what soft skills digital marketers need in order to cultivate and embrace a compassionate design format, how teams can foster more compassion in the design and decision-making process, and how compassionate design helps us avoid bias or harmful assumptions about users. Woo! It's going to be a great episode. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here, Catherine.
Cool. So we were just before the show started talking about how you changed jobs. So can you introduce yourself to the listeners and let them know where you're at now?
Yeah, sure. So I started my career initially in social work. And throughout various years, I've taken a number of different jobs, especially when my kids were little. And I did some freelance design work. I started doing that about 11 years ago. And that was when I first got into design in general. But 2 jobs ago, I started working as a content designer for hospice. And that's where I was introduced to trauma-informed design, or compassionate design, as I've been calling it lately. And from that job, I ended up with my current position with a government contractor. And at the moment, I'm supporting 2 contracts with the Department of Veterans Affairs. And I was hired specifically because of my background in trauma-informed design.
That's cool. So you've mentioned it a couple of times. Can you explain to the listeners what compassionate design is?
Absolutely. So my quick elevator speech is actually what you just introduced me in terms of the kind of content that I design. But I'll unpack where that comes from. So compassionate design comes out of what's usually called trauma-informed design. And that is a term that was started by SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration here in the US federal government. And they identified 6 areas that trauma-informed design needed to encompass. And that was safety, trustworthiness and transparency, peer support, collaboration and mutuality, empowerment, voice and choice, and cultural, historical, and gender issues. And so I've boiled that down for me personally into trust, agency, welcome, and hope. And basically what compassionate design means for me is designing content in a way that cares about the people who are going to be accessing it. I use trauma-informed design as kind of what I do. That's what I specialize in. But a lot of people are put off by that term and saying, oh, well, I work for Amazon. Nobody has trauma when they come to Amazon, so I don't need to worry about that. But compassionate design makes it feel a little bit more accessible. So I'm actually applying trauma-informed design in the term compassionate design.
Yeah, it makes tons of sense for me. I mean, when I was working with National Cancer Institute, it was one of the things that I had suggested because there's interesting research out there about how if you're under stress, how that impacts how you can absorb online copy, like how fast you read things and whether or not you can see things. And the summary the summary is that if you're in a stressful situation, you have less capacity to
Yep.
handle too much text and complicated navigation and that kind of thing.
That is
Um,
exactly correct.
yeah, yeah. And it was so obvious because, as you would expect, a government agency that's never done any of this before, it sounded very dry for everybody. And that
Yep.
just didn't make a lot of sense. And it was also very obvious when you flip to like one of their non-Fed competitors in the same topic space, and they are using compassion in their copy, and it's very clear.
Very
I was like,
clear, very
wait, I bet there's
straightforward.
research because I didn't have that background. I was like, I bet there's research on this. Wait, hold on.
There is.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I've got a little bit of background in human computer interaction. So I was like, I bet
Mhm.
there's some stuff out there about this. Talk a little bit more about why you think everybody needs some sort of compassionate design, even if they're not like a place like National Cancer Institute.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the reality is that I don't know what a user is experiencing when they access my content. So when they get my email or when they log on to my website, I don't know what has been happening in their day. Did they just come in from their dog got hit by a car, or did they just lose their job and now they get an email from someone asking, "Hey, how's it going? Do you want to buy our product?" Um, I don't know what my users are experiencing when they come to my content. So if I design content and visual design in such a way to be compassionate and to care about them as a human being, everyone benefits from that. Whether you're accessing my content because you just had the worst day of your life, or whether you just got a promotion and you're going to Disney, you're going to love compassionate content too. So in my opinion, nobody loses in that. Designing compassionately benefits every single user, and because I can't control the state of mind that the person is in when they come, just like you mentioned for the cancer thing, that we think about it in situations like that, right? Cancer, I work with veterans, so sure, that makes sense. But I mentioned Amazon earlier. Sometimes I'm on Amazon because I need to purchase something that's causing me a great deal of stress. And if I can't find it quickly, it causes me more stress, and I'm liable to just walk away and do something else. So if it's designed in a compassionate way and communicating with me like I'm a human being, that makes all the difference in the world. So we all need compassion.
This makes me wonder whether software options like desk.com have some of this built into it because I was just thinking
Mm.
of support structures, right? Because usually once you hit a support page, you're annoyed at the very least. If not, maybe
Absolutely.
other levels of emotion.
Yes,
I don't know if you
absolutely.
know the answer, but you're going to have to tell me on email afterwards because now I'm dying to know whether because there's a bunch of them in that suite. It's like,
Yep.
the Salesforce and the desk.coms and the whatever.
Yep.
And I just kind of wonder if they ever thought about it, though they should.
They should. They absolutely should.
Yeah.
Because we
So,
all need that, right?
yeah.
I'm looking through my notes because I don't remember what question it was that um, I was thinking through, but I had an experience just like this earlier this week, right? I got a notification that my free trial had been upgraded and my credit card had been charged. And I went, oh,
Fabulous.
crud. I
You love
usually,
those.
yeah, I love those. Usually I put a ticker in my calendar to remind me to cancel before they automatically charge me. Well, I'd forgotten, probably because there was a lot going on. I was a little stressed.
Mhm.
And I didn't want this product. I literally had signed up for the free trial because I was annoyed at the pop-ups that kept coming up every time I was trying to use the site. So I'm going to reach out to their help. And so I clicked the help button. It was a chat bot. Immediately I go into fight mode, right? Anticipating a terrible experience. I'm not going to mention the company because there weren't other options. There was no phone number, there was no
Right.
email. I had to use a chat bot. So I type in my question to the chat bot, and the chat bot responds, "Not a problem. I've already canceled your subscription and refunded your payment."
What?
And I went, "What?" was my exact response. It was the most beautiful interaction I've ever had in my life with the chatbot.
That's amazing.
So, do I wish they would have sent me a reminder email saying, "Hey, your thing's about to expire," or even better, that they didn't ask for payment information for their free trial?
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
but they did. And then they recognized at some point along the line, someone said, "Hey, what if a user doesn't want it and forgets to cancel before we re up?" because the chatbot was already trained on that situation. So at least at that moment, someone thought about compassionate design.
Do you love podcasts? Have you ever thought about creating your own podcast? What are you waiting for? Get started at podup.com. PodUp is one of the sponsors of this podcast, and they would love to someday sponsor yours. Starting is as easy as creating an account at podup.com today. PodUp has everything you need to run a full professional show with over 35 different tools with AI integration. Get a 7-day free trial with no credit card required and 15% off with the code digitalmarketingvictories15. Don't have time to start a podcast? Check out podallies.com. Get a team of podcast professionals to do all of the website, social media, and editing work for your podcast. Pod Allies is an agency run by the folks who built the PodUp podcasting software. Get started with them at podallies.com. Get 15% off when you sign up for today for either PodUp or Pod Allies with the code digitalmarketingvictories15. PodUp and Pod Allies can't wait to create with you and launch your podcast. So you're making me think I'm going to head off the web for a second because I recently had a customer service experience that ticked me off. But does compassionate design also apply to phone trees?
Yes.
Since we're talking about 100%. AI.
So one of the things actually when I was unemployed and looking for a job, I interviewed for a number of positions that was writing the script for those phone calls that you make. Because your customer service representative that you're talking to, even when you get a human, has a script that they're working off of, right? And so if you have a situation that doesn't follow their script, they oftentimes don't know what to do. So there were some companies that were actually experimenting with like a choose your own adventure where the customer would call in, they would say what their problem is, the rep would type that into their program, and then it would pick up some options and they would select an option and then ask the customer a question and select a different option. And it was so much more interactive. And I was like, that's the kind of script writing I would love to be part of, right? Thinking through all the scenarios and stuff like that. So yes, compassionate design absolutely applies to those kind of interactions. I think it applies to print. I think you can use it. There's even on LinkedIn, there's a trauma-informed design society that's actual for physical design. So like the design of spaces. Yes. How you put together, like you think of a doctor's office, right? People are really stressed to go to a doctor's office.
Or a hospital.
Or a hospital. How can we design our physical space in a way to be compassionate to the folks who are going to be there?
You're reminding me. I also had an experience with a hospital that ticked me up. Anyway, no, because it was like my mother's not very mobile, and I was taking her for they were open on the weekend. She was getting an X-ray, some sort of scan, but they didn't tell me, and unfortunately, the front desk didn't know either. There's usually a parking lot right next to the building, and we can do handicap parking, and it's pretty short to go from there to where the scan is, but I booked on the weekend because I have a lot of medical appointments. It was easier to take her on a Saturday. And that garage was closed.
Closed on the weekends.
And it was raining.
Tell you that in advance. Yep.
And the only park, luckily they let me drop her off at front, but the only parking lot was like group C or whatever, which was like very far away, you know? And it just, I was like, what are you doing? Like I had a moment where I was, for instance, I was in a scooter for a while because I had operations on my ankles, and you'd be surprised at how many places like just don't even have sidewalks and stuff.
Actually, surprised because but once you encounter compassionate design, you see it everywhere. My dad told me just the other day on the phone, he's like, I think about you every day. I'm like, oh, Dad, that's so sweet.
That's so sweet.
Like, no, because I encounter all this stuff that's so messed up, and I think, man, Michelle would fix that.
Thanks, Dad. I was hoping you were actually thinking about it every day. So how do you get started with the compassionate design approach? Is it similar to what you would do for like ADA stuff? Only because we have a lot of listeners with SEO and our stuff overlaps a lot with ADA.
I think there is a lot of overlap with ADA or WCAG guidelines or 508 compliance or whatever you're using at your company. I think there's a lot of overlap. I think that can be a good starting point because I'll be honest, I've worked for companies who that wasn't even on their radar. And like this color contrast, like those, the print is too tiny. No one can read it. And you've got gray background and white text and no one can read that. So I think that those are good places to start because at a baseline level, if I can't even access your content, it's not compassionate. If you haven't set up your header tags in a way that my screen reader understands, your content is not compassionate. It doesn't make me feel welcome, right? It says to me, oh, you can't actually read content, you have to listen to it. This is not for you.
Right.
And that's not what compassionate content is about. So
now, do you use that line when you're trying to convince? You haven't had, I don't know if you've been in the moment where you need to convince people to do compassionate design, because obviously your current agency you work for wants it for various reasons. But I kind of wonder, you just said this content is not for me. So I wonder if you can pivot that in conversations to actually get people to do compassionate design.
yes, I have actually said that before.
Oh,
When I worked at hospice, I was doing some designing and I wanted to change. We had print mailers that we were required by the government to send out to people. We had to send things in print. And I said, that's fine. But our print options they were horrific, right? We're too much on the page, too tiny font, not bold enough for people to even read it on a colored background. And so I said, can I redesign these? And they said, sure, whatever. So I redesigned them both in print and digital because I wanted to make them available digitally, because what we had for the download before was literally the print copy that we sent to the printer.
oh, okay. Yeah.
And they were trifold brochures, which looks great.
Fabulous. That's really easy on your mobile phone.
Fabulous. Yeah.
yeah.
So I redesigned the digital one and the print version. And then I was showing it to my boss, and he said, convince me why I'm going to have to reprint all of these now so that they look like what this looks like. And I said, okay, I want you to stand at the back of my office and read this. And he said, well, I can't see it from there. I said, exactly. Now imagine you're an 85-year-old man who just lost his wife in hospice. Then this comes in your mail. What are you going to do? He's like, I'm going to throw it away.
So you're going to get angry probably and throw it away.
And then you're going to think, I hate these hospice people.
Yeah.
And then I showed him a website that's called Who Can Read This? And it actually shows you color palettes and whether people with different visual problems can see them.
Oh, that's cool. I haven't heard of that one before.
Fabulous. It's so fantastic because then you can isolate, like, here's what it looks like. Here's what our website, these colors look like to someone who has cataracts. Or here's what they look like to someone who has blurred vision. And he looked at it and he's like, I bet half of our people can't even read our websites. I said, yeah.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's very similar to what I do in relation to page speed. If I see someone that's on a particularly atrociously slow website, there's a tool called GTmetrix, which is free. I think they make you create a login now. But you could actually create a little video about how long it takes for things to load based on locations. So especially when I'm working with maybe like international folks, I'm like, this is what it looks like in Peru. And somebody has to sit there painfully waiting for the thing to load.
And even that's compassionate design, right? Because you're saying, hey, person with slow internet, this website is also for you. It's not just for people with fast, high-speed internet who have great technological equipment that can download our thing super fast. It's for everyone.
So how much effort do you spend on text selection, like the actual language that you're using?
That, I think, is honestly the easiest place to start when you're starting to say, how can I incorporate compassionate design? You're writing the text anyway, so just write better text. Use clean, plain language. The plainlanguage.gov website is really helpful. Avoid euphemisms and inside jokes. Anything that might be like, if you're writing content that's going to be accessible to people who are not just white Americans, then make sure that you're not using parts of speech that only that one slice of culture would understand. Obviously, when I was writing content for hospice and death, every culture views death so differently. So you have to be really careful. Generally, we say you want to use the same language that your customer is using. The exception to that is if your customer uses euphemisms and similes and metaphors all the time, you probably want to dial that back.
Yeah. Do you also pull down the reading level because, half the US does not read
absolutely.
books anymore. Yeah.
Hemingway is great for that. So
Mm.
I love to try and get it down, honestly, between a third or a fifth grade level.
Wow, that low?
Yes. Um,
Wow.
if it's an academic publication, I will go up to a high school level. But I don't think I
Wow,
write
and you
anything
won't even
higher than
pull
ninth
that
grade.
into college if
No.
it's an academic?
You think your
Fascinating.
college students are reading at a college level?
Mm, not the current band of them. I mean,
Where are
previous,
people
but
reading today? They're reading on the web.
right, right.
Right?
Short-term
How
form
many people
video
are
and
sitting down and reading a novel on a regular basis or reading a nonfiction book to find answers to their questions?
yeah.
People aren't doing that anymore.
I know that's my bias because I'm a big reader.
Same, absolutely. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I
it's
have
totally my
6
bias.
books sitting on my desk right now to help me just with this podcast interview. So, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're
But when
right.
people
People don't
come to
read.
the
There was
internet. Yep.
one of my training decks has got this article that I absolutely love. It's on Slate and it's called You'll Never Finish This Article. So Slate partnered with a eye tracking company and they
Nice.
actually noticed when people stopped reading. And so in the article, they're like, whoa, I lost 20% of you. Okay. And then they'll go on to the next sentence. Whoa, I lost 15% more or whatever.
Yep.
It really drives home the point that for the most part, people read the headlines, if that, and
Yes, indeed.
not much else,
That is
unfortunately.
correct. So I
Yeah.
focus on making those matter, right? Filler words are out. White space is in.
Yeah.
I just had a conversation with one of my clients earlier this week because she has a abhorrence to white space, and she said,
Really?
I just hate white space." She grew up as a print journalist,
Oh, okay.
and white space is money lost, right?
Yeah.
And so I said to her, I said, that's really interesting because in the digital world, white space is high value because my eyes get tired and my brain is stressed out and walls of text scare me and I
Hmm.
leave.
Yeah.
Um, Bullet points, short sentences. We're talking sentences should be 5 to 7 words. Paragraphs should be 3 to 5 sentences.
Hmm.
Um,
Or it can be literally one sentence, by the way. That's
Yes,
actually okay.
absolutely, it can be.
Yeah.
Bullets and lists are great. It's easy to follow.
Or
It's
tables.
easy to
Google
remember.
loves tables too. Yeah.
Google does love tables. Just make sure they're accessible to your screen
Right.
reader, folks.
Exactly right.
Tables are a hot mess most of the time. Um, so yeah, I think the words that you use is the easiest place to start because you're going to write the copy anyway. So say what you mean and nothing else, and mean what you say.
Which
Which
also means if AI is helping you write, to be careful. AI likes to be
goodness, yes.
very wordy for
AI
the
is
sake
very
of being
wordy.
wordy. Yeah.
AI is often biased.
Yes.
So you need to really look, I get it. AI can make your life easier. It can, but it can also make your life harder if you publish something out there that's biased or just flat out wrong because you didn't double check it.
Right.
So use AI as your brainstorm guide, as your unpaid high school job shadow intern. But that content that comes out needs to be yours.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Because you're not designing for AI, you're designing for a human. And so it needs to be written by a human and sound like a human and care about a human.
So we talked a little bit about spaces and phones and digital and support websites, but can you also apply the same compassionate design principles to email and ad campaigns? And do you do any of that?
100% you can apply it. I applied it to email, certainly. I was working in a nonprofit, so we didn't really have ad campaigns.
Right. Yeah.
But I did apply it to our emails that we wrote. So I absolutely think that you can apply it to emails. I think you can apply it to ad campaigns, and I think you should. So off the record, I know we're still on the record, but I won't use names. So I know someone who worked for a major credit card company as a data analyst. And this person was tasked with doing some research to decide whether they should offshore their email notifications that came out about customers' um, accounts and things like that, and offshore their phone support for
Mm.
issues because obviously that's going to save money, right? And so similar, this was years ago before the AI range. So I'm sure that there are people doing research now on can we just get AI to write all of these account emails for our people? So this person I know who is a data analyst did the research on it with talking to actual customers, and they actually determined that they would lose more business by offshoring the email writing and the customer support than by keeping it in-house. And then several years later, so they decided to do that and to keep it in-house. And several years later, they actually designed an entire ad campaign around it.
Oh, interesting.
Talk
About
to
how it's
someone
like
who's
their
like
business
you.
differentiator.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got it.
Ah,
So I
yeah.
absolutely think that especially like if you take financial services is a great field, right? Because everyone gets stressed over money. I don't know anyone who doesn't get stressed over money. I get an email from my bank, I immediately think something's wrong.
Yeah.
So in that email text, is it walls of text that you're sending me? Or do you tell me up front, hey, everything's okay. We wanted to double check one thing with you. Oh, already you've lowered my stress load. What's the one thing you need to double check? So I think the language that you use in those emails is key. I think ad campaigns, for the most part, are not very compassionate. And I get it, right? Your whole object is to sell me this product, but treat me like a human when you do it. Don't talk down to me. Don't demean me. Don't make up stuff that's not true about your product. Don't spin it. Don't leave all the really important stuff to the fine print at the bottom of my email where I can't read it.
I think the
Because my
Dove
eyes are too
campaign
old.
might be the one example of the opposite of that. The one where they're
Yes.
non-makeup and like all sorts of
Yep.
bodies and that
Yep.
kind of jazz. But yeah, I
Absolutely.
totally get that.
Yeah.
So, how do you, when you're having a conversation about, and you've talked about this a little bit, but having a conversation about improving compassionate design in the marketing materials you're creating, how do you balance the business goals with some of that? Is part of it leading that example of like, this is well, how much money we'll lose if we don't do it? Do you actually
Yes,
put in the research?
I think if you are able to put in the research and get the actual numbers, that's the best way to do it.
Mm,
Now, I know a lot of times folks are in places when they can't. They can't, like their company simply won't pay to do the research and they're like, just do it anyway. So I think this is the hardest part about compassionate design because it can't always be quantified.
mm,
I think you can do A/B testing and say, look, here's some copy that we wrote that's the traditional sell, 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 sell content. And here's some content that we experimented with that's compassionate and actually cares about the consumer as a human being. You can do the A/B testing. It may not give you great results. I think that compassionate content design is a long-term process. I think looking at things like net promoter scores can be helpful. Um,
mm.
and hearing from customers who've contacted your company, actually talking to them, getting those call center records, because your company's collecting them anyway. So ask for access to them. What are people saying? Right? That's an easy way to get research that doesn't take a ton of time and money because you
Yeah.
already have that. What are people actually saying? And use actual quotes when you're communicating with your manager or with your stakeholders about why we should do compassionate design. Here's what our customers are actually saying. And here's what we're actually doing. And then being a model for yourself. Be that person in the meeting who always says, why are we doing it that way? Did we talk to customers? Do we know what they really want or need? And if they say, oh yeah, we know, then ask how do we know that? Do we know that because you just think you know them? Or do we know that because we have this survey that we got back from our customers with their own voice?
This is a critical thing, and I probably told you this story already on our prep call, but like digging into where did you get the data from sometimes has the most unique answer. Like when I was at Ketchum,
Yes.
they had a persona of Susan. This is for, I think it was ConAg or one of those big brands. And they kept talking about Susan in the third person. I joined a phone call without much background. And I literally muted the phone. I asked my boss, who's Susan? And he explains, oh, it's their persona. And then I got very excited. I was like, oh, they've
Yes.
got a persona because a lot of folks working with this PR agency did not have personas. Anyway, so then I asked him, I was like, where'd they get the data from? And he's like, oh, they just made it up. So then I went
Yeah.
to Yahoo because at the time, Yahoo would let you put a keyword in and find the demographic. Oh, no, wait, this was a Chef Boyardee. The brand's important. Anyway, you put the Chef Boyardee into the Yahoo tool and it told me it was college dudes. It It's not this middle-aged woman with kids named Susan.
Yep.
So anyway, dig into where they got the data
Where the data is coming from. Yeah. I think by asking questions, you can learn so very much in
I
meetings,
know, right?
Ask questions. Where'd you get that data? How do we know that information?
How often do you run focus groups, or are you always grabbing it
I
from
do
somebody else?
interviewing almost every day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
really fortunate. I had one earlier today. I have 3 scheduled for tomorrow. So yeah, it's a big part of what I do is actually talking to our users and asking them, tell me what works about this website for you. Tell me what doesn't work about this website. Are there things on it that used to be there and aren't there anymore that you're like, what the heck happened? Why are they gone?
Yeah.
We do a lot of co-designing sessions with our clients where we'll get on a virtual call with them and we'll just talk through what's working and what's not working for you here. And they'll be like, well, I wonder, could like even things like, could this box for text be a little bit longer? Yeah, absolutely. So we talk about designing with people, not for them. That if I'm just assuming what you want and designing something, and then I find out later that I made something that you don't like, now I have to go and undo it all. Right?
Right.
And that's money and time. Whereas
Yeah.
if I talk with you and you show me what you want and tell me what you want, then I just have to build it the way you want it.
As long as you're talking to the end users, I was thinking about like
Yes.
one of my Fed clients who, without prior to me coming on board, they were like, "Hey, developer, why do all these meta descriptions look the same?" And the developer was like, "Wait, I can fix it. I'm going to create a whole bunch of hidden tabs.
Oh no,
That'll
hidden
fix
tabs are
it."
bad.
And then I come in and I was like, "Why didn't you just write unique copy and meta descriptions for every page? Now I have to undo your tab thing that Google can't
Yeah.
read."
Right?
Anyway, that also
Yes.
happens.
Exactly. So you need
Yeah.
to talk to the people who are actually using the thing. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you do
Absolutely.
like user testing type stuff where it's like anonymous, but it's your target demo?
I don't in my current position, but I have in the past. Yes.
Ah.
So and I kind of do it a little on the sly right now where I will sit in on meetings where they're actually using the tech and I take
Oh.
notes in the background of
Ah,
what I
that's
see. Yeah, on the screen.
nice.
So
Yeah.
there are ways to get the information you need, even if you don't have this multi-million-dollar research budget, just say, hey, can I be in that meeting? I just want to be like a fly on the wall in that meeting. And so you
Yeah.
sit in the room, right? It's virtual for me. I sit in the
Yeah.
room, I got my Fig Jam open, and I'm taking all kinds of notes on little post-it notes, and then I'm clustering them to, oh, I see 6 people mentioned this issue that came up all the time. Yet when I talked with people, nobody thought about that. But as they were in there doing it, they're all like, oh, shoot, yeah, this always happens when we do that. And I'm like, take note of that.
Mhm.
Um, so the joke now around my company is that I'm the person who wants to be in all the meetings. So everyone
Oh,
thinks I just love meetings, which is so not true. I love productive meetings, but meetings are a great place to learn what's going on with the people who are using your stuff.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So we've talked a little bit. I think most of the stuff we talked about has actually been US focused, but what other tips do you
Yes.
have for people that are working on international websites or other languages? I mean,
I
for instance, with my client, and mind you, they have decided to go with automatic translation, but Google's translation, which, okay. But my initial approach was you don't rank very well in Portuguese. Maybe it all should be actually written by your Portuguese staff.
Yes. Um, AI translation is notoriously bad. I don't care who you use. If you're writing for Portuguese humans, a Portuguese human needs to be writing it.
Yeah.
When I worked in hospice, we did translate our newsletters into Spanish, but we had a Spanish speaking employee who did that for us. And just for fun, I did an AI translation of the same content, and then I showed it to my Spanish speaking coworker, and he went, "It's really terrible."
Now, have you played around with Google? They literally, like, I think last week, rolled out translation, which is also powering they have a function where I think it's an app on your phone where you can actually hear in live
Yep.
translations as you're talking to somebody in a different language. So
Yep.
I wonder, mind you, it's just like a week ago, but I wonder if it's better. That's my
It might
opinion.
be. The thing
Yeah.
about AI is that it can't capture nuance, and
Right.
it can't AI does not have empathy. It can't feel what your user is feeling. It can't feel what you want your user to feel. It's not capable of doing that because it's not human. So I
Yeah.
get it. It's expensive to have a human do your translation. Have your AI do it and have a human double check it at
Right.
least.
Right.
um,
Yeah.
but I
I
think
mean, I
other ways.
literally looked at a client's website that was in a different client that was in Chinese, and I was like, yeah, all those headers are English. Okay.
Yeah,
Which I feel like it's so common. I don't know
yeah,
how many times. It's always China too for some reason.
that's hilarious.
They're like, oh yeah, we're going to try to do a website in China. And I was like, why is it not all
Why?
Chinese?
Yeah,
Why?
it should be
Anyway.
Chinese. Also, you have different languages, right? Some languages
Yes,
are read
exactly.
from right to left. Some languages
Right.
are read vertically. And all of that matters for your layout. Like you can't just take your English designed and written website and hit the translate button and expect it to be intelligible to someone in another language. It
Yeah.
doesn't work that way. Does that mean it's expensive and you have to design multiple versions of your website? In an ideal world, yes, that's what it means.
Mm-hmm.
I recognize that that's not always going to be possible, but you need to at least be thinking about that. Some like I don't speak Thai, right? But I know that Thai words tend to be really long. And so I may have an English sentence that takes up an inch on the page, and in Thai it might take up 3 inches. Is my design flexible enough to allow for that?
Right. Right.
Or is it going to look like a hot mess when somebody hits that translation button?
Well, and the other thing is if you really want to have an international plan, every single language needs its own promotion plan. So you are
Yes,
doubling your
correct.
SEO work
Yep.
every time you add
Yep.
another country or
Yep.
language. That's just,
That's
and
just
by
the
the
way
way,
it is.
China is probably the hardest to tackle because it's got all sorts of extra
So many different
rules.
dialects and
Yeah, all
yeah.
different dialects and
And it's a character-based
yeah.
language, which is harder.
And you need
Mm,
to have somebody on the ground registered with the Chinese government and all that kind of jazz.
there you go.
Yeah.
So think wisely when you're
Yeah.
thinking about that
Do you
and
have the
bring
manpower
people
and
on your
budget?
staff. Yeah, bring people
Yeah.
on your staff from that culture who can help you not just with the language, but with the visual look, right? Colors mean different things in different cultures.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you're designing, you're like, look, I don't have the budget for that. Our website's going to be in English, but I would like other cultures to be able to access it and use it. Okay, then you can do things like your images. Are your images multicultural? Are your images multi-age? That was a real issue for us in hospice. They're like, well, most of our clients are old. And I'm like, actually, like almost half of our clients are not. So I don't
Oh,
just
that's
want
so
old
sad.
people on our
Yeah.
website. So thinking through the visuals of your site, and this is why, right? Clean lines, easy design is super helpful because that translates across cultures.
Yeah, one of the easiest audits I did was actually like a venture capital wanted me to like look in on what another agency was doing. They were running Facebook ads targeted to Latinos, and the images were white people.
And there you go.
You're like, I don't
There
know.
it
I
is.
mean, I realize there's white Latinos. I get it, but like
Like,
literally, they weren't
yeah,
A/B
come on.
testing any images
Right.
except for the
Yeah, that's
white.
problematic.
Yeah, yeah. It was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, do you have any examples of situations where the compassionate design has resulted in a negative experience for users?
Where lack of compassionate design or
Yeah,
has
sorry, a lack of compassionate design.
I
Yes.
do actually. I pulled a bunch out. There's a Eva Penzi Moog has written a book called Design for Safety. And
Hmm.
she has a number of examples in her book, but I'm just going to pull out a couple that were really horrifying to me. So let's talk Ring cameras for a minute.
Okay.
I have one. I imagine a number of our users do. Well, in 2019, Guardian wrote an article with multiple reports. Sorry, my computer's asking me to log in on my other side. Guardian wrote an article in 2019 detailing multiple reports of people describing instances where other folks hacked into their Ring cameras because their passwords were not secure enough. And so you had folks who were actually talking directly to children through the Ring camera. You had an example of someone demanding a $350,000 Bitcoin ransom
Mm,
because Ring was not asking folks to create complicated passwords or use two-factor identification, and they got sued for it.
mm.
Now, they've made changes, but nobody thought about that. in 2016, Wired published an article from some hackers who had hacked into a 2014 Jeep Cherokee because it was internet connected, and they were able actually to cut the transmission of the Jeep Cherokee while their friend was driving it. Their friend was in on it, knew about it, and Chrysler actually had to recall vehicles to put safety features on them.
Wow.
So,
I have an example of that, but related with AI, just because I noticed the article and I thought it was hysterical. So, first of all, AI hallucinates 60% of the time. It also
yes.
goes off the rails. It's also trained on the entire bloody internet, which includes stuff you don't want your kids to see. So, I'll just put that as
Yep.
like a baseline.
Yep.
Somebody decided to stick AI inside a talking teddy bear.
Yep.
And it encouraged the kids to start fires and
Yeah,
go find the
right?
knives in the house. Like,
Yep.
who didn't think this through?
There's
Anyway.
sometimes those cases are called, well, that's an edge case, Michelle. No one actually would do that. Here's the thing. Yeah, they would. Never
Mm,
underestimate the ability of human beings to do terrible things.
right.
So those edge cases, there's another book that I read called Designing for Real Life by Eric Meyer and Sarah Wachter Bechter. And they say stop calling them edge cases, call them stress cases. And you need to
Oh,
design for the stress cases. So
yeah.
1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have been victims of domestic violence. That's my stress case. So if I'm designing software that is home security software, my initial thought is it's going to make those people feel so much safer. Unless, is it a shared account? What if I share this account of my surveillance camera and now my partner is abusive and I kick him out, but he still has access?
Mm.
Now he's spying on me through our cameras. Nest Thermostat got in trouble for this because they didn't split accounts. And so the partner who got kicked out was able to control the thermostat remotely
Oh, that's
because,
awful.
right?
Yeah.
These are things we don't think about, but we need to think about them when we're
Mm.
designing products and when we're writing copy. We we have to think about those stress cases, and it's not just my job to not to do the right thing. It's also my job not to do harm whenever I can avoid it. And so we need to be asking those questions. How could someone use this in a bad way? And can I
Right.
design safeguards to prevent that from happening?
Yeah. No, that's a great idea. I was thinking about that because my daughter was occasionally like bringing up like, why does this have this weird warning? And I'm like, well,
Yep.
there was a lawsuit. That's why,
There
the
was a lawsuit.
McDonald's
That's why
cups say it's
your
hot
coffee's hot.
coffee, even though it's like obvious,
Obviously, it's hot coffee,
Yeah.
but it's not
Yeah.
obvious.
It's not obvious sometimes. Yeah. So let's see. Let's talk about. I think you've convinced people that they should be doing compassionate design effectively. You've definitely convinced me, but I was already halfway there.
That's true.
But what small, like impactful changes could people start doing to like start this process?
I would say get educated yourself on it so that you know some of these examples. Read some books, follow some folks on LinkedIn. There actually is a free LinkedIn learning course. Hang on, I got the name of it written down. Um, it's called Trauma Informed Design.
Oh, well, there you go.
On LinkedIn. It's a free
Cool.
course. Take that to learn about it. There are always examples in those. Um, get familiar enough with examples so that you can share them with other people on your team. Just like you and I have done in this very call, we've come up with examples from our own life, right? You don't have to look far. Anybody ever tried to cancel their Amazon Prime account?
Exactly.
I mean,
People
right?
can't see the look on her face, but we got a head tilt there and some
I mean,
eyes,
there's like
some
what,
side eye.
6 screens, and how threatening can they be? You're gonna lose all your benefits.
I know, right?
That is not compassionate.
No,
Like, maybe
but I
I'm
mean, they want to
canceling my
keep
Prime
you, I
account
guess.
because I lost my job. Amazon, don't make me
Right.
feel bad.
Yeah.
Just say, oh, we're sorry to see you go. We'd be happy to extend your benefits for the low price of $1.99 for 30 more days if you or whatever. But there are nice ways to say things. It doesn't, I had someone tell me one time, it doesn't take any more time to be nice.
Mm.
And I think that's true, right? So if I'm writing ad copy, ask myself, if I was super stressed and I got this flyer or this email, how would it make me feel?
Yeah.
How would it make me feel? And if the answer is it would make me feel gross, then maybe you should rewrite it.
Well, and a side note, because all of us currently are living through, especially here in the US, I'm not going to say too much
Yes.
about politics, but shit's hitting the fan, y'all, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
I'm not the only one that is stressed about the overall things, the measles and
Correct.
the things and the Trumps and the things
And the things.
and the
Yep.
things. So I would assume this would be a good time to do compassionate design
It's a
because
great time to do it.
parents are out with their sick kids all the time and
Yep.
people have stuff that is stressing them out right now.
Yes. So much
Yeah.
stuff. And if you are the company that is able to speak into that chaos with a voice of calm, people will take notice.
Yeah.
People will take notice. Now, I do not advocate, oh, I'm going to do compassionate design because I'll make more money. That is not what this is about. At the end of the day, this is about being a good human. And at the end of the day, humans use my products and humans read my emails and humans access my website. And so I want to demonstrate that I care about those humans because it's the right thing to do. It's
Yeah.
the right thing to do. It's the kind of person I want to be. It's the kind of company I want to work for. And I think most of us would say that. Nobody says, I want to work for the guy who's like Mr. Potter in It's a Wonderful Life, who hates everybody and is mean and underhanded and lies and steals.
I don't know. You just mentioned a brand that I know is kind of challenging to work for, is all I'm saying. But yes, most of us want to be nice humans
Yes.
and work
Yes.
for brands that are nice. Yes.
Right. We
Yeah.
certainly want to shop at places that make us feel nice.
Right. Yeah.
So, and if I have a choice between two equal products and one is from a company that has always provided me with stellar communication and one is with a company that's been a hot mess to work with, who am I going to pick?
See, this is why I know I grew up in Maine, so like I'm going to default to LL Bean anyway. But like there, you could return forever for your entire lifetime, and I know they pulled back on it, but they still don't give you crap about returning ever.
Yep. Yep. And so it makes you want to shop there.
It does.
Yep.
It does.
Yep.
And I've never, actually, that's huge. I have never had increased stress walking into LL Bean to return anything.
Right.
Whereas I've definitely had increased stress walking into everywhere else.
I keep things that I don't want sometimes because the stress of having to return it is just more than I want to deal with.
Yeah.
And I'm like, opportunity cost on that, keeping it.
Well, especially in the instance of walking into an LL Bean store where you then get lost because there's a lot of stuff to look at.
And then I spend more money. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. It's all that. Look at the fish at the main headquarters location and get in the bubble and see the fish.
Main headquarters location.
Did you get in the bubble and see the fish flying around your head?
I don't remember.
Oh, you missed that.
This was a long time ago.
Over by where they sell the guns, for everybody listening, there's a huge aquarium with Maine fish in it, including trout and salmon. And they, mind you, you can get in there as an adult. It's really for the kids. But you can like scoot under and they have like a bubble where your head pops up into the aquarium and the fish fly around your head.
That's really cool. See, that's going there.
Wow. There you go. If you ever end up in Freeport, I've given you a tourist tip. So where do you see compassionate design going in the next 3 to 5 years?
I hope it becomes the norm, honestly, for the reasons that you just said. We are living in crazy and chaotic times. It's everywhere. You can't escape it. Like I'm on LinkedIn to look for business stuff and people are still talking about personal stuff.
Yes.
And like it's everywhere. You cannot escape it. And so my hope is that it becomes the normal way of how we design. But honestly, I don't know. When we wrote our book, I wrote a book with a bunch of other people called Designed with Care, Creating Trauma-Informed Content. And when we wrote it, it was the only book on the market about trauma-informed design. It isn't any longer. And so I'm thrilled with that. There are more courses available. Almost every tech conference that I've seen a report come out lately, anything that's content or design related has a module on trauma-informed content design. It's becoming more known. There are tons of people on LinkedIn who are talking about it and writing about it. I think it will become more of the mainstream. I do also think there's been a little bit of backlash because some folks are saying that they're doing trauma-informed content design and they're not. And so there's been some backlash about that, oh, now it's the hip in thing. And so everybody's doing it. I don't want everybody to be doing it like that. I want everybody to be doing it because it's the right thing to do. And if some people are doing it just because they think it will make them rich, fine, they're still doing it. I'll take that.
Right.
So I think that it is going to become more the norm because I think people are going to expect it as companies begin to be more compassionate in their content. It's going to be very obvious the companies that aren't.
Right.
And so I think that they will shift. Like this company that I had the phenomenal chatbot experience with, it was not Amazon. And I
Shocker.
had a problem with Amazon and it did not go as well.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to be changing as companies see that there are different ways to do things. So I hope more people are practicing it. I hope more people are talking about it. I think making the shift to trauma-informed marketing is another step forward because I don't know that there's been a lot of inroads into that because I think we kind of reflexively look at marketing as not compassionate, right?
Right.
And I don't think it has to be that way.
Mm-mm. So we've been dancing around the idea of empathy because obviously
Mm-hmm.
compassion for them, you need to have empathy.
Yes.
For people that feel like they need to, I worked a decade in nonprofits. I don't know. And I volunteer every week now. We're filling local food pantries because the
That's
DC
awesome.
market got hit by unemployment and
Yep.
stuff. So
Yes.
anyway, and particularly we're filling them in front of schools. So we're feeding
Nice.
kids.
That's great.
Um, so I don't know that I need to flex my empathy muscle too much, but for people that are like, hey, maybe I need a little bit more help, do you have any sense of will they get it from some of these classes you've mentioned?
They will. They'll get some of that from those classes. I would say the best way to kind of build your empathy muscles is to hang out with people.
Mm.
Volunteer, just like what you're doing.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
if that feels too overwhelming for you, go to a public place and just people watch for a little while. And ask yourself, what do I see? What do I see as these people walk by me? Or when someone cuts you off in traffic and your first response is not very compassionate or empathic, ask yourself, what kind of day is that person having?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what kind of day they're having. Well, maybe I could be a little bit more gracious.
Mm-hmm.
Or something as easy as I'm in the checkout line at the grocery store and I just want to get home because it's been a long day. Well, look at the clerk who is ringing up your groceries and taking your money. They have a name tag. Use their name tag, their name, and ask them how their day's been, right? Because they're always going to ask you something. Hey, did you find everything you needed? Have a good
Mm-hmm.
day, whatever. So look at them and say, hey, Crystal, I hope you're having a good day. Or Crystal, you look like you've been on shift for a long time. I hope you get to go home soon.
That's funny because that is what my husband does a lot. He'll
Really?
ask, yeah, because
I
honestly,
love
my
that.
my empathy muscle got better being married to this man because
Aw,
he always, even before kids and the pets, he had that like, I bet that person's having a stressful day. That was
that's
his
awesome.
default every
I
time
love
something.
that.
I know. Mine was not, unfortunately. It's
Mine
getting better. It's getting better. But his always was. I would grump about it and he'd be like, "Wait, I bet that person had a stressful. Did you ask them?" And then he will ask people and be like, "Wow, man, that's a long shift. I'm glad you're almost getting off." And
Yep.
anyway, that is part of his DNA.
I think that's a great way to just build your own empathy muscles and because what it boils down to at the end of the day is understanding people, right?
Yeah.
And I can't understand people if I'm not with them. And I think that's so key in our world today where so much of our contact is online and on screens, right? And we
Mhm.
text people living in our own home. Right? Well, they're in the next room.
It's true. I do that.
It's so true. I tell myself it's because we don't have an intercom system in our home and it's
Hmm.
easier than
Yeah.
yelling. Um, but I think recognizing that there are real live human beings out there living in real world situations. And though I can't see them when I'm writing my email text, they are there. Um, and so the more I get to be around live humans and watch how they interact with one another and think about the kind of days they might be having, that will naturally inform the way that I write.
Yeah. Yeah. So this has been great. You have a bunch of resources. You've mentioned a couple. Do you have any others that you want to share?
Yeah, so I mentioned so a couple people that I would say follow online. Well, first you should buy my book, Designed with Care.
Right. Go ahead. Yes.
I'm going to plug that. Just do it. Eva Penzi Moog's book. Now, these are book apart books, so I hope that you can still get them. But Design for Safety, Design for Real Life is also good. There's one, David Dylan Thomas has written one called Design for Cognitive Bias. That's also excellent. If you're trying to figure out how can I talk to more customers and clients without a research budget, Erica Hall wrote a book called Just Enough Research that gives you some creative ideas on how to incorporate research into that. Rachel Edwards, who's out of the UK, actually just posted last week on LinkedIn a ton of resources for trauma-informed design. So she's a great person. Rachel Dietkus, it's Dietkus, is in the US, and she does a ton of stuff with trauma-informed design, as does Megan, and I'm going to butcher her last name, Legawiec. It's Legawiec. She writes a lot about trauma-informed design as well. So those are some places that I would start, and folks that I would say follow, read some books, Google it, because I've done some talks on it that I know are available on YouTube that you could look up. So there's a lot of resources out there, and there wasn't even just 3 years ago. There were not very many resources out there, but there are tons now. Yeah.
We'll make sure to put all those in the show notes. That'll be great.
Awesome.
And how can more people learn about you?
You can follow me on LinkedIn, reach out and connect with me, and tell me, like, don't just send me a connection, because if I don't know you or not sharing connections, I probably won't accept it. It'll probably just die in my box. So let me know that you heard me on this podcast, and then that gives me a frame of reference. So I'm Michelle Keller on LinkedIn. You can find me there. I do write on Medium. I'll be honest, I haven't been super consistent since I got a new job last year. But I have a ton of articles on trauma-informed design on my Medium. And so it's also Michelle Keller on Medium as well.
Awesome. This has been so much fun. I'm so glad that we were able to reschedule this and make it happen. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for asking me. I really enjoyed it, and I hope your users found it helpful. And if they have questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to talk about it.
Great. Thanks so much for listening. To find out more about the podcast and what we're up to, go to digitalmarketingvictories.com. And if you like what you heard, subscribe to us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Rate us, comment, and share the podcast, please. I'm always looking for new ideas, topics, and guests. Email us at digitalmarketingvictories@gmail.com or DM us on Twitter @DMVictories. Thanks for listening.